In a place known as Black Oak Ridge, nestled in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, Oak Ridge was born under the cloak of secrecy during World War II. That all changed on December 7, 1941, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, sinking 19 U.S. naval vessels and killing more than 2,000 servicemen. The United States was now at war. In an effort dubbed the Manhattan Project, a top-secret effort to produce the world's first atomic weapons was initiated. In the short span of 2 years, they built an industrial complex that would rival the automotive industry, with sites in Hanford, Washington, Los Alamos, New Mexico, and this area of Tennessee, which would become Oak Ridge. This area met the military's requirements for isolation, water, labor, and electric power. When completed, this fifth largest town in Tennessee would ultimately consume 1/10 of all the electrical power consumed in the United States. Tennessee Senator Kenneth McKellar, as head of the Senate Appropriations Committee, had full knowledge of the appropriations needed for the Manhattan Project, and was often called upon to keep the secret, mingling funds for the bomb project with other projects, or through carefully planned secret project funding. General Leslie R. Groves of the Army Corps of Engineers was put in place as chief administrator for the Manhattan Engineering District. Groves brought in some of the world's most distinguished physicists and engineers, in the likes of Hans Bethe, Edward Teller, Leo Szilard, and Albert Einstein. The purpose was to separate uranium-235, which occurs naturally in a ratio of 1 to 139, to its less useful twin, uranium-238. Chemically identical, the isotopes are almost impossible to separate. On September 28, 1942, construction was begun on 3 massive secret industrial facilities to produce the fissionable material that would fuel the bomb. Contractors had a scant 6 months to build the first complex, the massive electromagnetic separation calutrons, given the code name Y-12. Because of the wartime shortage of copper, the massive electromagnetic coils were made using tons of silver borrowed from the U.S. Treasury. During the Manhattan Project efforts to construct an atomic bomb, workers toiled in secrecy, with no idea to what end their labors were directed. By September of 1943, construction began on K-25, a gigantic gaseous diffusion plant, a building which would ultimately cover more area than any structure ever built. The U-shape measured 1/2 mile in length and over 1,000 feet in width for an area of 2 million square feet. It contained thousands of cascades that ran the length of the building. Oak Ridge continued to grow. In addition to the uranium separation facilities, the world's second nuclear reactor was built. Dubbed X-10, or the Clinton Pile, it was designed and built in 10 months and constructed as a pilot facility for the larger plutonium production complex to be built in Hanford, Washington. As a result, the community grew as the workforce expanded to more than 75,000 workers on the site. Construction workers lived in rudimentary wooden hutments, barracks, or trailers with little room and no frills. 3,000 Semestos houses were completed at a rate of 1 every 30 minutes. Once hired, workers were instructed to remain evasive about what they were doing. Many had no idea that there were 4 facilities being built, that there was more than one town site, more than one movie theater, more than one school. The division and segregation of each small community was vital to the secret the military was enforcing. The less the residents knew, the better. Weapon design and construction of the uranium gun bomb was completed in February 1945 and was dubbed Little Boy for its relatively small size, only 10 feet long. The more complicated plutonium-fueled implosion device, Fat Man, was completed in March of 1945. On August 6, 1945, Colonel Paul Tibbets and his men took off from Tinian Island for the Japanese industrial city of Hiroshima. 43 seconds after the bomb bay doors opened, the bomb detonated 1,900 feet above the city with a force of 12,500 tons of TNT. Japan formally surrendered on September 2nd on the deck of the USS Missouri. The most catastrophic war in history was now over. Behind the fence. That's how Oak Ridge came to be known in its early years. Oak Ridge didn't open its gates to the public until 1949, the same year it was officially placed on state and national maps. Today, Oak Ridge and many of its Manhattan Project facilities still remain. As part of the U.S. National Security Complex, Y-12 with its massive calutrons is a one-of-a-kind manufacturing facility that plays an integral role in the Department of Energy's nuclear security enterprise. As part of this country's Superfund initiative, the massive K-25 gaseous diffusion facility was decommissioned, and the site is seeing a rebirth as the Department of Energy's East Tennessee Technology Park, dedicated to transferring technologies developed through government funding to the private industry. And what was once a small pilot project reactor? The X-10 site is now home to the sprawling Oak Ridge National Laboratory and this country's spallation neutron source.